streaming to YouTube. It'll be
Oh,
streaming.
there it goes.
There it goes.
Ah, okay.
See it now.
Now streaming.
Well, it could be
We're on
downstream.
air.
Yeah.
On the air. Show and tell night.
Okay, do we have any new members that are online that can say they're a new member? Welcome to the club.
Oh, the crickets.
Doesn't sound like we have any new members online.
It's like everybody's muted, or most of them are muted.
Most of them are muted, huh?
Yep.
It's not like a live meeting where we can point our finger at people. You know, they can hide behind the turned off camera.
Okay, well, anyway, let's get on with the meeting then. Tonight's meeting, of course, we have to do this by Zoom again. It seems to be working. I'm at Carol's house right now, and it seems to be giving at least getting a video. I'm not sure how long it will last, but it's at least working. But anyway, we have to do these meetings by Zoom. So first thing I want to mention to you is we want to make sure that you fill out the entry for the door prizes at the end of the meeting. So you can check the link in the chat, and we'll be able to give out door prizes. I think we have six door prizes to give out at the end of the meeting. Okay.
And they're all laser pointers, right?
Huh?
And they're all laser pointers, right?
I don't think they're laser pointers. I don't think they're laser pointers.
Oh,
Let me see. As far as everybody knows, we're basically shut down for now. There's not much we can do about that. So we're kind of stuck with doing our meetings here. For all of you, just remember, if you get an opportunity, remember, I think it is the 21st of December. I think Jupiter and Saturn have a close encounter with each other, but unfortunately it sets about an hour after sunset. So hopefully you'll be able to take a look at that. You look outside, like I looked outside this evening, and they were pretty close together. So it would be kind of a neat thing to see in your telescopes.
Be a nice thing to photograph too.
I don't have any other announcements to make right now at this stage in the game. Spencer, was there any other announcements that you think we need to make?
I think that was it. Nope. That's all. I can't think of anything else.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead, and we're going to just talk a little bit about the committees, the committee report, and we'll go ahead and talk to first committee report, Lockwood Valley. Kevin, it's yours.
Yes, sir.
Kevin, Gilchrist, is he here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
So. Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can
Yep.
you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. Well, it's cold and everything's closed down. State of California regulations. We've just canceled all dark sky nights, and that's about where we're at. And we do want to have we haven't scheduled yet, but we're going to have a Lockwood committee meeting probably early in January, if not before. And so be on the lookout for an announcement for that. And that's about all that we can say right now.
The last Lockwood committee meeting is actually posted on the YouTube page as well.
Thank you. Okay, John, anything to add? John O'Brien?
I probably should mention that the toilet is broken in the new restroom. It's probably a result of water freezing in the bowl. And so we're going to have to advertise some new procedures for shutting down the restroom when you leave, so that there's no water left in the bowl when we close up the site, so that it doesn't freeze. But for now it's broken, so we have to use the old restroom, and we are going to replace the toilet, weather permitting.
Backdoor times.
Okay, it looks like we're probably done with the Lockwood committee. The status on the Ford Observatory, I can do that I know Joe's here, But basically, I think Ford's closing down for the season anyway, because number one, it's getting down into the 20s at night. And it's also the ski area starting to make snow at night. And we're kind of losing the skies because of the ski area is going to be in operation as soon as they get some snow. So we're going to lose the lights and everything. And like I said, it's getting down in the 20s at night. It's pretty brutal up there now. And of course, this weekend it's cloudy up there. So Joe, did you want to need anything to add to that?
No, just that they have night skiing and that's why the lights are on at night.
Yep. As soon as they make enough snow, they'll get the night skiing on all the time, and then we'll lose it till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So it's kind of going to go by the wayside. And whenever they're up there making snow, the lights are on, so we're kind of stuck. It doesn't make for a very good seeing. Last time Joe and I were up there was about a month or so ago. The seeing was absolutely spectacular. We had great seeing, but I think the transparency wasn't that good, but the seeing was great. We looked at Mars and we saw really, really spectacular details on Mars. We also saw some fantastic details on the Orion Nebula also. Some details we haven't seen in a long time, but it was quite nice. Joe, anything else you want to add to that little spiel?
I think that does it pretty good.
Okay.
Curtis,
Okay.
before you move off of Ford, I'm still ready to install that 15-foot cable up there and bring up a spare a wooden table.
Well, I'm going to be talking to Jeff. We may want to try to get the 6-inch refractor mounted up there because we don't have snow. We don't have any snow up in the area now, except like I said, they're making snow at the ski area. We don't have any snow up there now, so we could get in there and do work if we wanted to do some work up there.
Okay, when you do that, let me know, and then we can install that 15-foot cable, and then do a quick checkout, and then we could do that in the daytime.
Okay, I just have to talk to Jeff and figure out whether or not we're going to try to get that 6-inch mounted, that 6F12 refractor mounted to it.
Okay.
But, so that's what we're going to do it for. So there's not a lot of activities going on. We're going to be basically in hibernation mode until the springtime, just because of the ski area and the fact it's cold and heck up there. You guys think it's cold at Lockwood Valley? It gets cold. Remember, Ford's at 7,000 feet, 7,400 feet. So it's a little tougher up at Ford. Okay, so I don't think there's any other committee reports, unless, of course, Joe, do you want to make a pitch for the merchandise we got?
Sure. We have our website open now with all the different merchandise available, and there's a lot of really cool stuff on there if you check it out.
Yeah.
And we don't make a whole lot off of it, but it's mostly just for the members to be able to get some good club stuff.
Okay, thanks a lot, Joe. And I think we're okay on the committee reports. Greg Thompson, he's not going to be doing anything with the Boy Scouts till next year. I don't know if he wants to make a statement or not. Greg, do you want to make a statement?
Yeah. We had a Cub Scout troop contact us, a Cub Scout pack last month, and Spencer and I teamed up. Thank you, Spencer, and did a presentation to the Cub Scouts. And we got some great feedback from the parents. They thought it was really cool. Of course, they have to do their meetings virtually as well. And having a live astronomy event and some pictures of the stars and things like that. And the Cub Scouts were actually relatively full of questions. So it was a small program, but we're still going, and we have contacts. As you know, we did our merit badge classes over the summer, and we'll be doing it next summer. And, we have a few other things that we're going to be doing outreach with scouting on, and I'll get you a report on that in the spring when we're a little more up and running.
Okay, thanks a lot, Greg. It looks like we're okay on the committee reports. I don't think there's any other committees we need to discuss unless Daryl Dooley's out there to make a comment on the website. I think the website does quite well. Daryl, are you out there? Doesn't sound like Daryl's out there. So I think we're okay on the website committee.
Curtis, can I make a comment on the website?
Yes, go ahead.
This is January, no banquet this year.
Yes.
And so we're not going to be having awards. I just wanted to take this opportunity to recognize some outstanding effort by the website group this year. Daryl, Alicia, Greg, Spencer, and a few other people. I forget. Also want to thank Spencer for his work in getting the meetings, the virtual meetings set up, and the virtual committee meetings and board meetings. So our hats off to everybody that worked hard on this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Another thing, I'll go ahead and add my little spiel on that also. I would like to congratulate Greg Thompson for doing an excellent job with the Scouts this year, and he did an excellent job last year.
Yeah.
And I think he's a very, very good member to have on the board of directors. Greg, thank you for your assistance on the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to, thank you. I'm looking forward to Garvey being open again. Maybe this coming summer. Maybe I hope.
Hopefully.
Pretty sure will.
It's a great venue for the Scouts in the area to come over. So yeah, I'm with you, Dave. Like cross your fingers, right?
It'll happen.
Well, not just that, but Garvey, Griffith, Ford. I mean,
We need everything open.
Mount Wilson.
Yep.
Mount
Lockwood,
Wilson. We can't go up to Mount Wilson.
They'll all be open.
Nope.
What can we do?
By summertime. It looks good.
Hopefully.
Okay, guys, it looks like we could go on. Spencer will give the election results. I think the voting has cut off as of, what was it, midnight last night?
Right.
But remember, we had a very hard fought election here this time around, and it's very difficult to determine the elections.
We have a couple. We have
Right.
we have a couple of board. We have a couple of court challenges coming up, but
Yeah, I had to arm wrestle for my plate.
Okay,
No,
Spencer,
so-
would you
Stuff
like
like this,
to,
I think I'm
please
slipping
go
into
over
an
the
alternate
election?
universe.
so here are
Okay.
the okay. So as everybody knows, the positions were all uncontested. So we got 95 ballots returned. Those are the stats there. And so, is my math wrong? I
What?
think, let's see. I said 5 returning board members. 1, 2,
The
3,
six.
6.
You-
6 returning
Kevin
board
was
members.
the one you didn't
Including
have in the
Kevin.
original one.
Okay, so sorry, my stats are on there. So, anyways, so yeah, so that's the Curtis is president, Alicia's vice president, I'm secretary, John's treasurer. The board is Daryl, Kevin, Mike, Joe, Greg Thompson, Tim Thompson, and the new people are Ralph Gonzalez and Dave Yakerson. So welcome. And the one of the things that I forgot when we were going to make the announcements is that we will have our general meeting in January, and that's when the new board and the officers take their positions again. So that's the transition. So the meeting in January will be what we decided was going to be January 14th, I believe.
It would be January 11th.
11th, January 11th. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the usual second Monday.
Right.
Yeah, basically
okay.
the Monday after the board.
January it
meeting,
is.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll send out an announcement. Tim, I believe, is lining up a speaker for that.
Yep.
Yes, I'm lining up a grad student from UCLA who, if she is available, will talk to us about direct imaging of exoplanets.
Okay. Great.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Okay.
That
All right.
would be.
Okay. So those are the election results. Any questions? If not, then we'll move on. And
Yeah, it was a very, very difficult campaign. at
Oh,
this time.
cut it out. I looked at that
But,
voting pamphlet. I had to look at it twice to make sure I read it right.
We did put out the announcement for nominations, and we didn't get hardly any nominations. I think we got 2 new nominations, and that was it. So, I mean, the members are they can make the nominations. They can run if they want to and make the nominations. It's totally up to them.
I think it was tag
now
you're
we'll
it.
get on to the next fun part of this particular meeting. And reminder, go online and sign up for the door prizes. Make sure you do that. And now we're going to go on to the show and tell. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun on the show and tell tonight. Spencer, why don't you go ahead and start off the show and tell then, okay?
All right. Well, all right. So I'm not doing the show and tell, but the first up are Phil Taylor and Dave Yakerson. Their title is Digital Telescopes. And so they're going to show a short presentation on the pros and cons of the Unistellar EV and the Vespera, the So you guys take it over from, you guys can do your screen share. I'll stop sharing if you want to
Okay.
share.
I'll be doing the screen sharing at the end.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
So we'll get started right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
yeah.
Yes.
First of all, hi, and thanks for all of you for allowing me to share this with our club, which I'm a real proud member to be in. And thank you for allowing me to be a board member for this year. I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of great ideas for you guys. Anyhow, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of the digital consumer telescopes. Years ago, I owned a Celestron 8-inch. And when I had it, the orange tube, the original one, and I used it for a while, and I took it out. I was looking at the planets and Saturn, and I wasn't very knowledgeable about how to even name the darn thing with the azimuth and all that. So I had a lot of problems, and eventually, it got put away, and I sold it, which I wish I didn't do right now. But what happened was when I joined the club, I talked to Phil Taylor, and as you probably know, Phil his family's been in astronomy for the past 200 years, and so he was my go-to guy. And Phil and I talked. I said, Phil, I want a telescope. I'm getting older, and I don't want something that's going to be heavy. I want to be able to see all the cool stuff out there. I don't want to see little fuzzies. I'd like to see stuff in color. Well, he tells me about the new Unistellar telescope that's coming out, and he was a backer of it like a couple of years ago, and it took us 2 years to get the darn thing. The Unistellar scope is basically not for everyone, and it had a lot of pros and cons. People were saying, it's a toy. It's not going to do this. It's not going to do that. But basically, it's what we found out now that we're able to use it, is that we find it's best for deep sky observations and not the planets. It's terrible for the planets. It's, well, not terrible, but you can see them. But because the chip is so sensitive, you can't see it as well. But anyhow, it's not really designed for that. It's a visual telescope not intended to take the place of astrophotography, because the guys in our group do such a fantastic job with it, like Nasir and Raphael. That I have a lot of respect for you guys that do all this stuff, and also all the guys that, with all your knowledge. It's phenomenal. I really enjoy looking at your pictures. It's basically the EV scope is best for outreaches, for that wow and oh wow factors that we get. And it's basically a digital eyepiece in live feed. It's comparable to a 26 millimeter plus L lens. It allows the observers to share live images on their own screens within 100 yards due to its own built-in Wi-Fi for smartphone control. And it allows me, what I thought was kind of cool, I could stay in my car, Lockwood, on a cold night and run it remotely. So I don't have to, so I keep out of the cold. It's basically designed for light polluted skies, including Bortle 9 backyards like mine here in the Los Angeles area. Its application allows for archiving pictures within its own library in the application while listing the RA, declination, and exposure and stacking time. And it's a self-aligning computerized alt-azimuth mount 3-axis accelerometer. And it has its own GPS and it's able to find its own location without the need of a polar or 2 or 3 star alignment. So the setup and teardown is basically 30 seconds. And it allows me to set it up really quick. And on my app, I'm able to see, it tells me what's available that night to look at. And I can just do push, I want to see this, go to, bam, it's there. And the weight, by the way, including the tripod and the backpack, is about 20 pounds. It has its own built-in lithium battery that lasts about 9 to 10 hours and has a port to charge your cell phone as well. And it's a custom reflector telescope. And we found out it can be collimated, because when we first got the scope and we were using it up at, when Phil and I were using it at the planetarium, we had some difficulties with focusing and being able to see what we thought would be a good image. And once we collimated it and we learned how to focus the thing, we started getting some pretty amazing results. Now, it also has a batten-off mask built into the dust cover for manual focusing. The EV in the EV scope stands for enhanced vision, which is kind of cool because on the app you have live feed, so you can see. I'll be showing you pictures of this at the end. So what it looks like with the regular live feed, and then when you touch the little eye on the app, it goes to enhanced vision, and that starts the stacking. Now, the aperture of this telescope is 114 millimeters, The mirror is 4.5 inches. That's what that means. And it's just recently featured in Sky and Telescope. And thanks to Penny Kunitani, she just sent me an article that they did on the EV scope. And the gentleman who did the article says that he put it up against his 14-inch telescope and was pretty amazed. Instead of seeing the little white fuzzies that he would normally see, he's able to see these color images right away. So he was pretty impressed with it. The focal length is 450 millimeters, and the focal ratio is of f4. Now the units, it stacks every 4 seconds, and once you're on the object, and it continues to stack, so the images keep getting better and better and better. And the cool thing now in the application, it tells you how many seconds and how long it's been stacking for. So you can turn it on or turn it off. It has a Sony IMX224 sensor chip, which is a low light sensor used for surveillance. The resolution of the sensor chip is 1.2 million pixels, or 1305 times 977. And it's the same sensor for you astrophotographers that's used in the ZWO224 MC camera for some astrophotography. It has a built-in library app of over 1 million star database coordinates. It includes recommended areas that it points to for supernova, galaxies, nebula, clusters, stars, planets, and transient events. And this is one of my favorite things. It's capable of scientific exploration using the citizen science app that's in on the phone with its partner, the SETI Institute, of which Dr. Frank Marchese is the chief executive officer, and he partnered with the EV scope to help create this idea. And so therefore, it's a connected network telescope of thousands of EV scope owners around the world. And it helps scientists while seeing events like exoplanets, transit, or NEA passing live while they are happening. Here's a fact that I found out was really interesting, is that NASA used 2 EV scopes to reset the trajectory of one of its deep space asteroid probes. It can find deep space objects up to the 16th magnitude in a dark sky night. It eliminates all of the newbie frustrations, and it's known for its simplicity and automation. It's a great launching pad for future astronomers. And it shows all your objects in colors. It has an optional solar filter. Excuse me. And now I'm going to show you some of the slides. Hopefully I'm good. I'm doing well on time. I'm going as fast as I can. And I'm going to share the screen here. Let me do that real quickly. Share screen right there. And share.
Yep,
And
we got it.
You got it? Okay, the first picture I'm going to show you here is our Lockwood facility. And Phil, who's the guy there that's with the mask on?
It's Colin Whipple.
Colin Whipple, right? And also now I understand Tim Russ, is that the other gentleman's name?
Yes.
Tim
Yeah.
Russ, yeah. If you look at our bulletin, you'll find some other pictures that Tim put on our December bulletin. Now, the cool thing about this is there's 3 EV scopes here on our pad, and they all have bubbles, by the way, bubble levels. And the pad, by the way, there's absolutely perfect for all the bubble levels. It's fantastic. So 3 EV scopes in one night was pretty cool. The first picture I'm showing you now, this is of the comet of the comet Neowise. I took this in 8 seconds. It took me about 10 minutes to find it because on the application on the phone there's a joystick, and it took me a while to go left and right and up and down to find this. And I did this at the Chuchupatte when I was with Penny up there, and this is the Neowise comet. And I was pretty blown away when I turned the enhanced vision on to see this. Here's one more picture of the Neowise. You guys are able to see this okay, hopefully?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, this next picture here that I'm showing is looking through the live feed directly at the Orion Nebula. And this is normally what it would look like, kind of like in a raw state. And let me go over here, turn this one off. And then as soon as I turned on the EV enhanced vision, this is what I ended up with. And this was 72 seconds. Now this one here was taken in November. Now this one here was taken in February when I first got my scope. This was a 16-second exposure. Now this one over here, I thought was kind of cool because I was looking at Lockwood, at the Milky Way galaxy, and the meteor shot through it, so you can see how it captured that. I was going, whoa, that is so cool. This one here is the dumbbell, and this is a 2-minute exposure. And like I say, if I went for like longer, it would get better and better, and more enhanced vision on it. This next one is the Trifid Nebula for 8 minutes exposure. This was from Lockwood. And then this is the Whirlpool I took in a 2-minute exposure. Okay. Y'all can see that okay?
Yep.
Now, and this last one I'll show you here. Oh, wait, let me do a couple more. This is the Lagoon. Now this, I kept it on for 27 minutes to see if I get even more color, because I was pretty impressed with that at Lockwood. And this last one here I'll show you is the Cigar Galaxy on a 2-minute exposure from Lockwood in July. Now Phil and I are able to go around like in about 20 minutes to see a lot of the, we could see about what, 20 or 30 items, Phil, in one night?
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quick. It just takes a few minutes, and well, what I find that after just about a minute or so of exposure time, you reach you get pretty good results, and you can let it go for a half hour, but it doesn't do a whole lot, which I find interesting.
Now, since Phil is my mentor in the club, he went ahead and bought a new telescope, and because he did that, I had to go out like a crazy guy and buy one as well. So we ended up with a new Vaonis, called the Vespera. Now, some of you already know Vaonis is built in France as well, so as the EV scope was invented there. And the Stellina is about $4,000. It weighs about 40 pounds. It has no eyepiece. And the new model is called the Vespera. So I purchased it already on a Kickstarter along with Phil, and I know Annie got one, Annie Gross as well. And this one here, it weighs 11 pounds, and it's only 15 inches tall, and its width is 8 inches. It has a focal length of 8 inches, 200 millimeters, and the lens is an apochromatic quadruplet. It has a larger field of image than the EV scope, and it also has simplicity and automation of use. Now, both the EV scope and Vespera scopes overcome light pollution. No collimation is required. And now we'll go ahead and show you some pictures of the new Vespera. This is what it looks like. And to show you how small it really is, this is it in its little bag. You can see how the hands just fit right around it. Now, what's pretty impressive here from their website, this is the picture that it takes. I thought that was pretty impressive. And the last picture I'll show you, the one that sold me, was of the Veil Nebula with all the colors. And now for any questions and answers for Phil or to anybody?
Dave, can you what do you get JPEGs off of this, or do you get some kind of raw images?
These are raw. These are images. Well, from the EV scope, automatically takes the pictures immediately and sends them directly to the phone, and I could share them with anybody. It saves them in the library on the application. It's pretty cool.
So it sounds like they're JPEGs.
I'm not done.
Yeah, they are JPEGs.
The first speaker is about halfway through. So
Hey, David,
Uh,
if you were to use something like this for outreach, other than like looking through the little eyepiece on the EV, what kind of display? Could you use a tablet or something to set up and show people?
Yes, Unistellar is always upgrading their application. They just upgraded the app to use tablets now, and they are also in the future planning on adding it to your laptop computers as well. So what's cool about this is for COVID-19 and for outreaches, I can have 9 people be able to open up a free app on their phones, and they'll be able to hook it directly to the telescope sends out its own Wi-Fi signal. So I would just tell them what the Wi-Fi signal is, and they would be able to bring this up as a watcher. Anything that I have, they would be able to see. So I could be I could be like 100 feet away, 100 feet away from the scope, or 90 feet away, and I could give a talk to let everybody see this, and even run the telescope if they want, because you run it from the app.
With my experience up at Griffith, where everyone tries to hold their cell phone up to the eye hole of my reflector, that might be a really popular station for all the people who are up there with their cell phones and want to take something away.
Yes, absolutely. Well, this is kind of cool because I could just share it. I just say, here's the number. Let me have your number, and I'll just do a share it. That shares it automatically with your phone. We could do that as well with the pictures.
David,
Yes, Annie.
do you know how long the exposure would be with the Vespera to take the Orion Nebula?
It should be immediately. Just talk to Phil on that one.
Wow.
Phil?
Yeah, the exposures are all done. It's a pre-programmed thing. It just images and then it processes and then it stacks them. You can go as long as you want. There's one guy in England, he exposes all of his stuff for an hour. It's pretty impressive.
But each single image is only 4 seconds long, right?
Yeah. Each exposure, because see, none of these telescopes except the Stellina has a derotator. That's why the Stellina costs $4,000. That has a true derotator in it, and you can expose as long as you want, which is something I might consider doing later down the road. But these things, I think they're JPEG, and I think there's also FITS format, because a lot of the users in Europe will process. To me, these are visual telescopes. I just want to use them for visual, but since you document your visual experience, you can actually process, post-process if you want to.
David, what's the longest exposure have you gone with Unistellar?
Well, because it got cold outside, I think maybe about 27 minutes. Yeah, after a while, it gets so good. I mean, it gets to a point where you just don't need to see anymore. I say, like the Veil Nebula, I wanted to get the Veil Nebula, and I didn't get the picture that that the Vespera will do. So that
hey, David.
Yes.
On the Stellina, you could also do I noticed you said they could live stream through their tablet or phone.
Yes.
But they could also save the image through their phone, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay. That's pretty neat.
All right, I'm afraid that's going to be our last question. We've
oh sure.
We should.
It's about 20 minutes, Spence.
Yeah. Pardon?
Why did you finally?
That's about 20 minutes, Spence.
Yeah, right. That's about 20 minutes.
I'm
okay,
sorry,
so
guys.
that's all right. So and I think we might have a little bit of time after all the presentations, and so we can circle back and hit some more hit you up with more questions. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, let me just.
And David has to unshare or something.
I will
that's
take them off.
Hold on, I'm turning it off right now. There we go.
All right.
Sorry, guys. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Next is Nasir.
Yeah. So I don't have the option to share screen.
Yeah, you should. You should at the top.
At the bottom.
Bottom, depending on your browser or your setup.
It's a green button.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so just I'm going to stop sharing. You can share yours. All right. We got it.
Oh, what happened?
Ralph G is starting to share a screen. Ralph?
This is my first Zoom, so I'm trying to figure out the software here. Sorry about that.
So unshare your screen. Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead, Nasir.
Okay, share screen.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Okay, Hello, guys. Welcome to LA Astro and Tel. And after David's presentation, I guess I'm the old school guy still. It's just like when the digital camera came in and there were people who were doing darkroom photography. So I guess we are in that state here. I'm the darkroom guy. So tonight I want to share what you can do with Bortle 8-9 skies if you have got narrowband filters. And this cover page here, right, shows this Horsehead Nebula, which was exposed for about 60 minutes with only H alpha filter. So, I mean, I've been doing astrophotography for the last 3 years now, and most of the time, like for 2 years, I've been using one-shot cameras. And I spent a lot of time doing a lot of imaging from my backyard because, yeah, it's not so easy to go to dark skies every time. But never got some good results. And when I finally got monochrome cameras and filters, and I was just being lazy because I know it's a lot of work. So, but when I tried it first time and I got some Horsehead, Orion, and Rosette, I was just blown away. And I said, okay, I'm not going back to one-shot cameras. This is just awesome. I mean, the results I get is pretty much almost equivalent to what I get from Lockwood using one-shot single color cameras. So anyway, I'm going to start. I'll show you some of the stuff, mostly solar system and star clusters and galaxies, which you star clusters and solar system objects, you can, of course, you can do image from anywhere you don't need dark skies. But for galaxies, definitely you need dark skies. Narrowband filters doesn't work. But the best bang of the buck is you get all the pretty nebulas, which you can even get it from your driveway in your backyard in the middle of the town. You don't have to go to dark skies for that. So just a little background that this is where I live, and this is the actual light pollution map, and this is almost 8 to 9 skies. 8 to 9 skies in Lake Balboa. So this is where all the imaging was done. And this is my setup in my backyard. You can see there are a lot of trees, and I have to fight. Every time I have to image something, I have to plan best where the trees was not going to block for at least a couple of hours. So I use this 80 millimeter stellar view telescope. I still have this mount, which I bought it from Vaonis. It's amazing. For first 2 years, I used it, and then I said, I'm going to get a new one because it's not working well. But then suddenly it started behaving pretty good. So I'm still using this. And the camera is the monochrome GWO, and the filters are standard LRGB and H alpha O3 S2. And this is my setup. The software that I use is PixInsight. This is one of the screenshots when you're doing this channel combination. I'm sure a lot of people use this. And these are all my shortcuts that I've created. So I'm going to start with solar system objects, which are, of course, easy to image from anywhere. And this Mars occultation happened like sometimes in May or June. And it was just after the occultation. It was just amazing. It was like when the Mars came out, it was like a light bulb. And of course, everybody knows this comet. That was the best thing happening, one of the best things of 2020. So, and this was done about LRGB, about 10-15 minutes of exposures of each filters from my backyard. I'm pretty happy with all the colors that came out. And of course, I've been imaging Jupiter and Saturn. This was done last week. Tonight it was pretty close. You can see it in one single eyepiece. And of course, next week, everybody knows it's going to be 7.5 minutes away. I love this shot. It almost looks like a full moon. but it is a crescent moon. And of course, the Earth shine makes it all visible. This Venus came pretty close to Neptune. And this is the zoomed in image. You can barely see Triton here. And of course, this event happens every 8 years when the Venus pops into Pleiades. Because Venus, 13 years is exactly equal to 8 years on Earth. So it happens, the ratio kind of matches perfectly. So Venus comes at the same spot in the sky every 8 years. Some of the star clusters are also very easy to image from the backyard. You don't need filters or dark skies. This is one of my best photograph of HM18, 3 hours of LRGB. Here's the galaxy, which is about 500 million light years away. This is about 250 million light years away. Of course, this is M13 in all its glory. And of course, you get this nebulosity. My exposure was like 20 seconds, 200 seconds each for each filters, LRGB. This is another cluster, M47. Just to give an example of what you can do from backyard is easy to process all these star clusters. Galaxies are a tough one from backyard, but the bright ones are okay. If you have enough patience and time and exposures, you can get it. This is M31, and this is done only in H-alpha and red filters. I tried to do with all other filters and get some colors, but not quite there yet. But this is, I think this is the best one I got from my backyard. It's a 1 hour exposure. It's Leo triplets, 45 minutes times 4 exposures. This is a tough one. And 8182, yeah, about 3 hours of exposures. Now comes nebulas. These are the best ones. I mean, I really enjoy taking this because this is really, you can have the best almost from the backyard. Cone Nebula.
Nice.
37. Crescent Nebula, 60 minutes, H-alpha only. For colors, you need a lot of work. So I sometimes just do H-alpha and get all the details.
What camera are you using?
This is ZWO 1600 monochrome.
Okay. Very nice.
This is elephant trunk. You see this elephant eye, head, and this is the trunk. Elephant trunk. 106 minutes, H-alpha. Heart Nebula, I've done it many times. It's one of my favorite objects. And yeah, I've done in color. Mostly it's red, but I think in monochrome, it looks, you get more details. About 2.5 hours. I mean, I tried this with at Lockwood, and I got it in H-alpha. It was not that different. And I was kind of surprised, oh, so why do I have to come to Lockwood just to get an H-alpha? I mean, there's not much difference. Sol Nebula, 3 hours. This is another one of my favorites, Rosette. I did it for 2 hour H-alpha O3S2. So this is like Hubble palette color scheme. This was done in February this year. And then I've got another one, like just did it last week. I think I got more details here, just H-alpha, 30 minutes. Look at the details. I was just blown away. When I first saw this, yeah, I said, wow.
Beautiful.
This is a bubble nebula with M52, 3 hours. California, I just did it last week. Again, I mean, I did it last year also, but I think this time I got a better result. And this color is coming from only H-alpha and O3, 145 minutes. Wheel Nebula, 100 minutes. Again, Hubble palette. Dumbbell. This was not, okay. This is only one with a single shot, one shot camera, one shot color. This is the only one that I used it in my backyard. All other, I tried to use a one shot camera in my backyard. I was just no good. I was not happy. This is the only one I could get good results with that. This is Helix, only 21 minutes, H alpha. I mean, last month I did it in color from Lockwood. The details are almost similar. There's no extra too much details from Lockwood, and from backyard I get the similar details, just with H alpha. Ring, it's I need a bigger focal length here. It's just not enough f7 telescope for this. It's pretty tiny. Another of my favorites, of course, everybody takes this M42 is the first thing that you do when you start your astrophotography. And I've done it many times. And every time I image this, I get different colors, different, yeah. So this one is just 16 minutes, H alpha and O3. And I'm pretty happy with the details I got with only 16 minutes. Of course, the more exposure you do and more filters you use, and you can get more details and different colors. This is another, I'm very happy with this 1 hour, just H alpha. It's a lot of details. I mean, I've tried this so many times with my single shot camera. I just couldn't get anything out of it from my backyard. And finally, yeah, with filters, it's amazing.
Are you using a Deep Sky Stacker, the processing?
No, I'm using Pixel software, yeah. So, yeah, I started with Deep Sky, but once I got PixInsight, yeah, I just like to use just one software. This is one of my best Lagoon Nebula. I've done it from Lockwood also, many places, but I think this is the best one I got from my backyard, 157. And again, the color scheme is Hubble palette, so that's why you see a different color scheme. This is just 35 minutes of H alpha, so monochrome. Trifid. Wizard, I just started this project last week. Yeah, it's not too much of details. I mean, a little bit noisy, but it's only 70 minutes of H alpha. This is a tough one. This is a faint nebula. So I need more work on this, more exposures on different filters. This one, M16, Eagle with all the pillars of creation. And again, Hubble palette scheme. Yeah, this is, I love this. I've got a lot of good details on this.
A lot of hours there. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, so that's it.
Very nice. Excellent. Excellent.
So, yeah.
When you do the other colors, do you do them from your backyard as well?
I just want to let you know that I'm basically lazy by design. So all these photographs, of course, not too long exposures, only 1 hour, 2 hour max, 3 hours. And a lot of people do 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, like Brian does it. And also another lazy thing that I do, I don't do any calibration, no darks, no flats, no bias, nothing.
Really? That's no darks, no nothing?
Nothing. It's just straight. Yeah, I don't say, okay, fine. I'll get 10% extra. I mean, I should do it, but I still haven't started those calibration. I'm just lazy.
I've never done calibration frames. I'm actually now starting to learn doing the calibration frames. I usually just do SharpCap Pro. I do a live stack do the software, and then I just edit on Lightroom. And most of the shots I do from the backyard too.
Yeah, I mean, calibration is good. I mean, you can, of course, it helps reducing all your noise. And if you have flats, you can reduce all your dust motes and stuff like that. But I mean, the difference is pretty subtle. So for now, I just want to enjoy what I get. But of course, once you're done with this, you want to get to next level. Then yeah, okay, I'll do calibration to get better and better. Maybe take longer exposures, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours. So I'm sure it gets better. But the longer you do and all that, you should remember that there is a law of diminishing returns. So it doesn't mean that from 3 hours to 4 hours and 5 hours, you're going to get a dramatic difference in results. I don't think so. I mean, the last mile is the tough one.
Well, Nasir, I know that Raphael does the Urban City Astronomy on Instagram. Are you going to put any of your stuff on Instagram?
I've been updating. I just bought the new Raza, and I'm pretty happy with that telescope. It does very, very well. It's a little bit of a learning curve because of the f-stop is so fast on that telescope. My other telescopes are f5, f7s, and my Cassegrain, I think it's f10.
Yeah.
And with the Raza being an f2, it's a very very fast telescope. You really need to tone down the gain and exposures on it because it just almost gives you like a white image. It's pretty crazy how it's a very nice telescope. I took it out to Sky is the Limit out there in not Palm Springs, Joshua Tree a couple of weeks ago, and I imaged M45, and I got some pretty good results, just of like maybe 12 minutes of live stacking. But I had some issues with my cable. I kept getting these weird lines on the image, so I kind of had to stop and head on home.
Okay.
I guess my question.
I'm sorry. We're gonna have to. We should move on. Okay. Great. We have some more discussion afterwards. Okay. I'm sorry.
Great images, Nasir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice, Nasir.
All right, Dave, you're on next. So Nasir. Okay, good. All right. Let's see. So we have Dave Nakamoto.
Hey, can you see that image?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to go fast here because I don't have a timer on this. This is Garvey Ranch Observatory. This was taken.
Hey, David, we don't see your screen.
I thought I shared it.
Right.
Let me check it again.
See.
Okay, now, oh no, Ralph.
No, somebody else is sharing again.
Ralph.
That's why I wasn't sharing.
I don't know what this thing's doing. It's have a really weird. There you go.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, now let's see if I can get this thing going.
Yeah.
Okay, now can you see that image?
Yeah, now it's
All right, now start the timer now. This is Garvey Ranch Observatory, like Nasir. This is an urban site, and if you don't believe it, that should be black in the background, or as close as it ever comes to Garvey Ranch. Part of Garvey Ranch's problem is behind that is a parking lot with lights. We've got flood lamps on the athletic field, and this is right next to the observatory. You got trees everywhere. It's just a mess. But Vance set up this telescope, the black one. That's a 4.7 f8.33. Yeah, I know a lot of periods there. Celestron. It's a refractor. Down here, you see, I think that's a planetary camera sticking out. It might be dead wrong. I think that's the deep sky camera there. There's a flip mirror, so we can select between the two. And that's an electronic eyepiece, which is a godsend in urban conditions because it can reach down to at least 7th mag, probably fainter. And it's got a 12-degree field of view. So if you can't start your end, notice no computer anywhere except on the cameras. So Vance uses me as a human go-to, which I'm more than happy to do. And for me and Vance, Tyree, this is our primary deep sky and observing site. because it's open every Wednesday. And if it's not open, it's due to the weather.
Nice picture of Joe there.
This is through the QHY camera, which can't fit the full moon. This is full frame. We caught it obviously when it's near full moon. If you can see my pointer, I'm not sure you can see it, but there's Copernicus, and I found and identified a few features on this side, which normally we don't see from Garvey Ranch because we're usually not at this phase when we're up there. Okay, this is our best attempt at the rosette. Unfortunately, the color's off because at this point in time, Vance and I were, this is basically an unfiltered camera. It's a single shot color camera. This is the ZWO camera. And basically we hadn't figured out how to balance the colors at this point yet. This was early this year. Halfway through this year, Vance figured out how to balance the colors, but I hadn't gone back and processed this one yet. This is probably our best shot of the Orion Nebula. Of course, if it's up there, we'll take a chance at it. I think this is the best shot because the trapezium is not quite overexposed and you see a lot of details out here. Also, I think the color balance is better on this one than any other image we've had. But we tried for faint stuff too. This is the Crescent Nebula, and I'm shocked that we got this. Remember how totally dark our skies are from Garvey Ranch, and so this was a shock. Thought of something. If we could see any part of this nebula in a single frame, we go for it because it will build up. If you don't see any of this, move on. We just learned that from hard experience. As you can see up here, it's 35 frames each 10 seconds long. And the reason we settled on that, this is Hubble's nebula, in case you don't see it because it's so darn small. Yeah, this field of view is 84 arc minutes right across. And that's the standard for the deep sky. 10 seconds we settle upon because we don't get hit by periodic error. These are totally unguided images. There are other issues with the mount that prevent anything longer than 10 seconds to be safely taken. And how do we take them? That was a shock. M46, yes, that planetary is visible in the cluster. It's not part of the cluster, but we were shocked that came through. Because that's another tough one. That's a tough one.
Very nice.
We use SharpCap. We use LiveStack. You have to adjust a few of the parameters, but basically it corrects for any errors. And if you're equatorially mounted and you're tracking fairly well, you could stack for quite a long series of time. Unfortunately, because of our light polluted skies, notice 72, that's still 720 seconds, but after that, the light pollution built up. Of course, if you go to the ZWO in single shot, you can grab stuff like this and that. Now, okay, the moon base on 2001 is right there. Wave, everybody. and cry for the fact that here we are 19 years later and we still don't have anything close to a moon base.
We'll be there in 2024, actually.
If now a moon base might of the size of Clavius is probably a long time in the future.
We're not always
successful at the Garvey Ranch. This is the Owl Nebula, and again, we're just happy we recorded it, but there wasn't much there. But the two best photographs I'd taken were from Ford Observatory. We're trying to set up the 18-inch for imaging. We can switch, but we can't have both at the same time. We can either look through it visually, and it's an excellent scope. That's an 18-inch Astrola cave. You will not find better optics. Some will match it, but you won't find better optics anywhere in that size range. We can flip back and forth between visual and imaging, and Curtis has been kind enough that he assigns one night for visual and one night for imaging. For reasons I've personally confessed to right now, I only show up for the imaging night because I'm interested in seeing what the scope does. And this is one of the things it does. This is M13. This is amazing because due to some sort of tracking error or something else, thank you very much. we could only get away with 4-second exposures. I think the reason why was I couldn't get my cooler working because I couldn't get the power pack close enough to the eyepiece. So it's like, oh, we're going uncool. And 4 seconds is as long as I can go. But this approximates the visual
And David,
view.
is that what the
Yes.
is that through the having the park lights on when you guys are shooting these images?
No. This is at Ford Observatory. This is the 18-inch f7. Yeah, I said that. 18-inch f7 or f8. I forgot which one it was at Ford Observatory. So this is full frame on my own G10 camera, and this is startling. By the way, those colors are correct. The brighter stars always appear yellow to me, like they're in the foreground, and the blue stars in the background. Even visually, I've seen it this way. So this approximates the visual view from maybe like the 60-inch or even the 100-inch.
David,
the last photograph,
This is 25 frames, 4 seconds. So is it 4 seconds for total of 25 frames, or each frame is?
No. Each frame is 4 seconds, and 25 frames were live stacked.
Okay, so about 100 seconds of exposure.
Something like that, yeah. Really, this is such a bright object. When the 18 inches of glass, you could easily overexpose this. So I stopped it after 25 frames. That's the good thing about live stack. You can actually, and I'll talk about this in some future LAAS talk, but you can actually see the progress. And when you think you're where you should be, you can stop it. You don't have to guess. You can see the stack as it's occurring. This is my best photo. This is again at Ford Observatory. For some reason, it's now 2 seconds, probably because you still see those red dots. I was still getting noise. It was a fairly warm night. This was back in May. And so I had to stack 159 frames, but I like this because for the first time, a photograph that I've taken shows good detail within the ring itself, which is really tough because if you overexpose, you wipe those out. And if you underexpose, you don't even see them. So I'm very happy with this image, despite all the red dots due to noise. And yes, I could eliminate the noise through processing, but unfortunately, that will eliminate the detail in the ring. So I just accept it the way it is, and that's my last photograph.
Okay. If you're not speaking, please mute your phone. We got a lot of background noise going. Thanks.
That's all right. I'm done. I'll keep that up because I want to have bragging rights.
All right.
But this is my best image. Any questions? Okay.
Great.
Down it goes. You're welcome.
Fantastic job, Dave, as usual. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. You're too kind. Okay, where is this?
So,
oh, there it is.
All right. So
how do I stop this?
I've booted you off of the show.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. I don't have to worry about my own computer without showing anything.
So, okay, Chris, you're up.
Thank you. Let me switch.
Let me stop sharing. You can share your screen.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. Oops, hang on. There we go. Am I up? Nope, that's not good.
Yeah, I found you have to share before you. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Oh, why don't you go full screen?
There we go. Okay, so you guys can see?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Quick question. How many here have permanent telescope Piers at home?
Oh, you have to say at home. I was going to say Garvey Ranch.
I've seen the ones at it's a Lockwood. Anybody? Nobody?
I do, John.
John does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
for Denver, I plead guilty.
There's a few of them out there. But yeah, I got in. You guys are all amazing. So I just bow. I got into astronomy back when Mars, I think it was 2000 something, early 2003. Sorry. No, well, I got more into it then, but it was like the mid 90s. And I had a little GT scope that I got from Costco. So that kind of got me motivated. But over the years, I've kind of moved through a bunch of different things. And what I learned is Piers make a difference. I got really frustrated with having my little flimsy tripod get knocked around and bounced all over the place. So I decided to go ahead and move in a different direction once I discovered bigger aperture telescopes. But this is what happened when my little kitty cat bumped my tripod, and I have a ZWO, I've got a 120 and a 178. This is what happened. So I went ahead. My little backyard cat. But so this is the end of tripods for me. So I just thought, I can't have this happening all the time. So this is what I discovered. You know, with astrophotography, you guys are all the gurus. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to go ahead and even start down this road, I want to have the best of both worlds, because a lot of you guys are real specific to astrophotography. I tend to like visual a lot. Because I'm so new to it and I look at the learning curve on it, I kind of stick with both, but not so much into the astrophotography. So that's the reason I went ahead and did that. But I thought, if I'm going to go ahead and invest in something like this, I started looking around, and I was kind of like amazed and perplexed at the pricing and what they were actually putting out there as telescope Piers. And I have been involved in welding for a bunch of years. I was with a company called Ecolab. You guys might be aware of them. If you go into any hospital and pretty much any restaurant that might be open, they are the go-to chemical corporation to go ahead and supply chemicals and a lot of other things. My boss at the time, because we deal with stainless steel, I asked him, I said, I've got a customer here. It's going to take me 5 minutes of welding to go ahead and fix his machine or whatever it needs to be fixed. And he says, well, we don't do that. I said, well, I didn't weld at the time. I said, well, it's going to be down for 3 days to a week if we order this part. And he says, we don't care. Not that it's bad about Ecolab, but that's the way they did. So he says, if you want to learn how to weld, go ahead and weld. We're not going to use it here. So I went ahead and went to Piers College and learned how to weld. I've been on some pretty cool projects since then, but being in the astronomy now, I thought, I'm not using my gear enough because I don't want to use the tripod. So I went ahead and decided to move forward. I looked at this, the Meade Beast. This baby is, you know, when I looked at it, it was $4,000 back then. And now they've taken it down to 2,500. But there's none in stock ever, anywhere. So I looked at the design and I thought, you know, I can actually make that. So I went ahead and moved forward. I went to Meade's technical department and I said, can I get the blueprints? Because I couldn't find a good picture anywhere. That one I just put up, it's not detailed enough. So they actually were kind enough to go ahead and send me the actual drawings of what they make. And it's a 1/2 inch thick pipe, the wall. Everything else is fairly standard, but it's just massive, and it's designed for their LX200 14-inch. And the pictures that they show is of a guy in a lab coat. It's like, well, we don't operate like that, but at all. But I did a little research. I went to a bunch of star parties, and I realized that on refractors, most people are running anywhere from 90 to 150. Your SCTs are anywhere from 8 to 10 inch, by and large. And your reflectors, if you find somebody with them, are in 8 to 10 inch, and that's it. That's what you see in the field most times. So it's totally overkill for this type of Pier, even to have it at home, because you're not going to need it. So this is what I was setting up in my backyard, and that's an Orion. That's a 10-inch astrograph. That's on the Atlas EQ, and this is the thing that a piece of plywood. My yard's going through a transformation, but this is what I had back there. And if you guys ever want figs when they're in season, that's a giant fig tree there. But I just got tired of it. So I decided there's got to be a better way. So what I did is, through my welding, I've done a lot of different cool projects, but the picture on the left is a double axis solar tracker. I was sent to Vermont to go ahead and learn how to do this stuff. The guy I was working for at the time wanted to do stainless steel piers. And that pole you see sticking right up in the middle there, he wanted to do this out here in California. That never materialized, but the training that was invaluable. This is one of the shops I was working at more recently, and the equipment that we use. But Dan's pier plates, if you guys have piers, they actually make a very cool design. I tried to go ahead and figure out how to do this myself. It's not worth it. But for about $200-300, you can go ahead and buy something like this. Super simple. And they just it just bolts together. And this is for the Atlas mount right here. So this is what I started into. I went ahead and got some 8-inch pipes, some 10-inch pipe. This is what everybody uses pretty much. And I found a recycle yard, which is exactly the same as a new hunk of pipe, but you're just not throwing down the big cash for it. In addition to that, you can get the raw pipe, which is a lot easier to deal with. A lot of the newer pipe, it's got sealants on it and all kinds of coverings, which makes it more difficult to weld. Anyhow, what happened here is it's just an 18-inch plate on the bottom that's 1/2 inch thick. This doesn't have the struts on it yet, but that's a 10-inch pipe. It's got a 3/8 inch wall, which is more than adequate. And it's really in the middle because you have the beast of the Meade, and then you have the other ones that are running 1/8 inch wall, which you can get vibration. Also, they've got the little legs on them. They're still a tripod. It's all they are. They put a pipe, 1/8 inch pipe on little tripod legs. You can still bump it. You can still knock it around. It's just unfortunate. And they're charging a lot of money for it. So what I figured out is I could go ahead and make it and pretty much make it for the same price point as what they're charging for these. I'm sorry to say they're flimsy little Piers that you don't have. And this is permanently mounted. So that's my plasma cutter. I go ahead and cut it, grind it flat, match the plate, match the top plate that's going to be on. I'll show that in a second. So here is the Pier itself. I've got it marked. Here, what I did is I went ahead and put in some downlighting, because one of the big frustrations I have also is getting out into the yard or going anywhere and having to have the headlamp on, which can be annoying. So I went ahead and put some downlighting on. So this is just bolts, LED bolts that are that go into this hole. This is a little overkill here. I did a cover for this and welded that on there. But this is the, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a welding positioner that I put on there. One of the benefits of having this is because I can do a single weld. So go ahead and affix it, and that's your base. And then I put 2 more welds on top of that. So the structural on this thing is pretty huge. This type of welding will match Meade without any problem at all. So those are 3 stacked welds. Now over here on the right-hand side, this is a 1/2 inch plate that bolts down to this top here. On some of the other ones I've designed, you can see the bolts, the pre-bolts here. Some of the other designs I've got, basically I've actually welded this plate right to it and cut holes in it. I've got a few different little things that I do. So this is the Pier plate. It's actually welded, or not welded, but mounted onto the plate here. That's how simple it is. You put 3 holes and then you just have the plate and it's ready to go. This is the downlighting here. What's interesting about this is that I thought, will this throw too much light and really be bothersome? And it doesn't. It goes straight down, and from an angle from the house is about 60 feet away. And from that point, you can barely see that they're on. But when you put something other here that you need to read or look at a chart or anything like that, it's completely visible. So I just pre-mounted everything. As far as square round, there's different schools of thought. I went with the round. I put in, what was it, 12 bags of concrete at 60 pounds a piece. So there's a lot of folks that think that you need a huge amount of concrete and a big base to hold this all stuff. And I put in some stainless steel L-bolts and just went ahead and matched everything up with a wood template before I put it in and got that ready to go. Let's see here, there we go. So essentially what I did the same design here where it was just a wood template. There's a lot of stuff on the web. You see.
Whoa.
Oops, we just lost him.
Oh.
Froze.
Yeah, let's give it a sec. Quick connection to pop.
Can't hear you,
I hope he
Chris.
realizes that.
He's back. He's back.
Okay. Is he?
No, I don't see him back yet.
Those solar flares hitting his.
I can see his video.
Wasn't there a big one just recently?
Yes, it actually is.
Yeah, I was out there.
Yeah, we laugh now, but
yesterday using my lunch telescope. There's some stuff brewing around on the disk right now.
oh
in the
my
sun.
God. Okay, I think we lost him.
Lost him completely.
That was because I want to ask him how much that beast weighs. I mean, sheesh.
Probably log back in, right?
He'll probably log back in.
I hope so. Hope he knows what's going on.
Should.
He's probably still talking.
Hey, Raphael, you still sporting a beard?
Huh?
No, I trimmed it down.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I trimmed it down.
All right.
Wife was getting upset.
Yeah, the answer is he still has a beard.
All
I
right.
took like 2 inches off.
Okay.
2.5 inches off.
I've been following you on Instagram, my friend. Your photos are
As
wonderful.
Cyril Jones says, twice nothing is still nothing.
All right, we'll give him another minute to get back on, and if he doesn't, then we'll move on. Okay.
But there are no rolling blackouts, right? We're past the Santa Anas.
Yeah.
I was thinking he might got hit by one
I had 3 blackouts this morning in my house in Reseda.
this morning. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. It was so windy.
So we still got Santa Anas. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Has
right.
anybody gonna go out tonight and look at the meteor shower still?
Say that again.
Is
I thought it was
anybody
too
gonna
cloudy.
go out tonight and look at the meteor shower?
It
It was yesterday. I saw 2 yesterday through the clouds, and
Penny
this
Kunitani-
morning I saw 2.
Penny Kunitani was went out to Agua Dulce.
Right now I have a ZWO camera outside with the wide angle, the fish lens that it comes with.
Penny, how clear was it out at whatever that name thing was?
Was beautiful. It was cloudy driving out there, but once got there, it was perfectly clear sky, gorgeous stars. I stayed out for about an hour and a half, tucked into my sleeping bag, and maybe 20 or so, 20 or 25 or something like that.
And cold?
It was very cold, but I was tucked into my sleeping bag. Perfect.
Right. Where did you go?
David, would we be
All
able
right.
to see any meteors tonight, you think? Because the clouds are clearing.
There should be some Geminids left. The peak was, I think, I can't remember. I thought it was yesterday or the day before, but
no, it was yesterday at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
I could not see anything
13, 14.
yesterday.
Okay.
It should still be about 20, 25 per hour. It peaked at 50, which is probably what Penny saw, but I don't follow him too closely, but yeah.
All right, guys. So let's move on to the next. I don't think.
Oh God, we lost him.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back on.
Oh
All right.
nuts.
So, all right. So, Brian is.
Yeah, meteor shower.
Okay, Brian is up next. Brian.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay,
You hear
all
me?
right. Yep, we got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and you can have the stage.
Okay.
Okay,
There he goes.
All right.
So let's see. See my screen?
Yep.
I see your slide.
So I'm just going to talk. So I've been in the club for about 6 years. Most of my time I spend up in Lockwood Valley. And I'm just going to talk about my recent experience in deciding to move my scope to New Mexico so that I can get far more nights of imaging than I can just driving up to Lockwood Valley. So I really was in search of trying to find a really dark location. I go up to Lockwood maybe 12 times a year, maybe 20 times a year. I try to go up as often as I can, but it's a lot of effort, of course, to go up there that often. And then, of course, the seeing is not always great. So I really wanted to try to find a dark sky site where I can image a lot more frequently than I did just driving up to Lockwood. And so I decided to try to find a location and move my scope somewhere where I could actually do some remote imaging. And I actually did this with Robert Brothers, who's also a star member in the club for many years. And both he and I decided to do this as a joint venture. to kind of look around and try to find a place. So the first kinds of things I needed to do is I needed to really upgrade my astrophotography equipment to make it really suitable for remote imaging, remote unattended imaging. And I needed to look for a suitable hosting site for this, for my site or my telescope. So I kind of went online and just kind of looked at all the different options in the Western United States. And these were a list of some of those options that I looked at. I ultimately decided on this last one, which is Dark Sky, New Mexico. It's actually in Animas, New Mexico. I'll show you where that is. And I basically, the reason I selected this one is it really had a lower cost per month than any of these other options. It had Bortle 1 skies. It really had, if you looked at the data for the number of clear nights in that area of the country, it really had the highest number of clear nights, something like over 300 nights per year or clear. And, talking to the owner and the on-site personnel, they're really nice people, and I really like them. And so decided to take a chance with these guys and move out there. I started looking into this by the end of last year and really decided on this location at the beginning of this year, but then COVID hit and they didn't really want anybody coming to their location during that time. So my move was delayed until May. So I decided to move in the May time frame. So this is the location. So this is New Mexico on the left-hand side here. And I've got it marked here, Dark Sky, New Mexico, down in the left corner here of New Mexico, southwest corner of New Mexico. And this is the Google map of the site. They have a number of observatories here, roll-off roofs. I think they have 30 telescopes on this site. My observatory is this reddish roof here. It's called a 1 meter observatory. It was planned to house a 1 meter telescope, but that never panned out. So this finally drove out there in May because that's when COVID was a little bit less and they allowed us to drive out there. This is, this is the upper left here. This is the 1 meter observatory that I'm in. The right-hand side here, there's actually 9 piers in this observatory. And my pier is the one on the left here. It doesn't have anything there yet. That's when we first showed up. I took a picture. And so Bob and I drove out there end of May, spent 5 days installing, making sure everything was working, and then drove back home. So this is my telescope configuration. So I really spent the last couple of years building up the telescope and the mount, getting the right telescope and the right mount to do remote imaging. So I have I've got 2 telescopes here. We've got an AG optical 10-inch IDK, which I bought used on Astromart. And I also have a 10 micron mount, which I actually bought used through Ed Thomas at Deep Space Products. So I got a pretty good deal on both the scope and the mount. These are really suited for remote imaging. I've got also on the AG optical, I've got a Optec Gemini focusing rotator that's very useful to have when you're doing this remotely because you can't manually rotate your camera. I bought a brand new full frame EDIC 16200 prior to my move. And then of course I have a wall mount Spica flat. You can see in the lower corner here. I've mounted a Spica flat for doing flats. Nasir, flats are very important when you have filters. So I have that mounted on the wall there. The second telescope, and this is actually Bob's brother's telescope. So I piggybacked his TeleView 76 on top of it so we could do some wide angles during this time of year, which is perfect time of year to use this telescope. Oops, sorry. And he has a QSI crop sensor QSI 683 attached to that. He's got a micros touch focuser, and he's got a flip flat cover for his scope. So that's our current configuration. It works pretty well. Let's see, for the hardware configuration, so that they give you a little, plywood sort of platform here to mount, put all your equipment, all your electronics, right? Your computers. We've got a computer, Dell computer that we just bought, a used Dell computer we just bought online, some cheapo Dell computer. We have a, power supply, UPS power supply. I've got a 12 volt, 30 amp power supply to drive all the equipment on the telescope. We've got a weather station with GPS, and use a power pole distribution system that I have mounted on the scope. I think it was up here on if you could see it on there, that powers all the 12 volt equipment. We also have a webcam that we mounted on the wall so we can see what's going on if we ever need to. And the other really important thing we needed to get was this digital logger power switch. So you can actually, log in via the web and power up all your equipment through a web browser, which is really important. And then, of course, I have the Spica-Flat dimmer for the flat panel on the wall. So the software configuration, of course, I use SGP for my image acquisition, and we use Splashtop for remote logging in. We like Splashtop a lot because this allows both two people to log in at the same time. You can't really do that with remote, remote desktop for Windows. And TeamViewer is just so flaky. We just didn't like it. So we got Splashtop. We have to pay for that, but it's worth it to remote log into our computer and then basically get everything running in SGP, etc. The one thing nice about this configuration is their setup down there is I don't have to control the observatory roof. It's all done automatically by their software that they have there. They have a software that monitors, like 10 different parameters related to the sky conditions, the weather conditions, humidity, and it decides when to open and close the roof. If there's clouds, it closes the roof. If the humidity is too high, it closes the roof. So it does that all automatically, which is very nice. So I don't have to worry about it. They've got 9 telescopes in there, all, some of those telescopes, there's some telescopes in there that are over $100,000. And so they're very careful about monitoring and making sure that the roof closes and opens only when it should open and close. So so far I've been there since May. So this is just a little short summary of my experience. So I've started taking pictures in June, basically. We did have a downtime of 2 months because of monsoon season. And so that was expected, but that's passed. And I've been, since end of August, I've been imaging every single night that I could possibly image. I've so far completed about 14 targets, and I've started about 5. I did have one electrical problem that I discovered, and fortunately this happened over monsoon season, so I didn't lose any time. And of course they've got 24/7 people there that can help you, and I worked closely with the technicians there to try to resolve this. Both Bob and I did, and we're trying to. Well, basically, what was happening is our cameras were disconnecting for unknown reasons. So we were trying to look into whether it was a USB problem or a USB cable problem. So we replaced all of our USB items. We checked the power connection, and that seemed okay. But it turned out that we couldn't figure it out. So we ended up driving out there in August. Actually flew out there in August. We didn't want to drive. And we brought a bunch of extra equipment with us. And it turned out that we had a defective power pole distribution block on the mounted on the telescope. So I brought a new one for me. I could have done this remotely if we could have narrowed it down and just mailed it to them. But ended up driving out there and we fixed it, and it's been working ever since end of August without any problems. Every night, basically, that it's clear. So I was just going to go through some example images. So this is M33. So a lot of the targets I'm showing here are using the TeleVue 76 just because it's a good time of the year to use it. So this is the 76 with the QSI. This image is H alpha with and then LRGB. I really try to do a lot of total imaging time on a target. Basically what I do is I look every night after I do an imaging run, I look at the data, pull it into PixInsight and basically look at the noise for each of the images, the stacked image per night, and the signal to noise. And when those things, when the signal to noise are leveling off, or when the noise is leveling off, then I know I've actually I've acquired enough data that I could stop, because you're not gaining anything at that point once the signal to noise levels off and the noise levels off. And I've just determined that it's somewhere around the 40-hour time period for almost every target is when it's about a good enough. I can't gain anything more by taking more data, basically. One thing I should have pointed out is the 10 micron allows me to do all of my imaging unguided. It's got a fantastic software built into the computer on the 10 micron that allows you to model the entire sky, and you could get very good guide. You get very good tracking without actually having to guide. So all of these images are unguided. Let's see, here's the Pleiades that I took. Actually, this one I only did 21 hours, again, based on the signal to noise. This is a very bright target. And I think the previous one, I had a lot of data on H alpha, of course. Of course, the narrowband stuff, you need to take a lot of time on there to really knock down the noise. Flaming Star, this I took fairly recently. Again, this is H alpha plus RGB. I actually didn't do any luminance for this one because it didn't need it, I didn't think. This is the Rosette Nebula. This is using the Hubble palette. I just finished this one actually about a week ago. So this one I actually took 50 hours because I did all narrowband and I did a lot of narrowband images, 82 per filter to do this. And I actually did RGB colors just to get the star colors right. So I did about 6 hours or something like that for RGB. Let's see. Oops. So I did the iris. Of course, the nice thing about, I've done this at Lockwood, of course, and the thing about the iris is it's there's a lot of dark stuff in there, and you really need dark skies to pick out a lot of that stuff. So I thought I'd give it a try from New Mexico, and this is LRGB after about 23 hours using the TeleVue 76. And then M33, another often image target. So this one I actually, of course, added to HA to this. It brings out all the hydrogen 2 areas, star forming regions in there. Let's see, this is one image I took with my 10-inch AG optical using the full frame 16200 of the fireworks galaxy. I think I did this at the beginning in June while it was still up. And that's all I had on terms of images. How much time do I have?
Let's see. You've got.
Have I used up my time?
Yeah, you've hit your time.
Okay.
Give you a couple minutes, and then Chris actually sent me a message.
Came back on.
Yeah, his computer crashed and he's back up. So
Okay, the only other thing I wanted to add was, I don't know if people are interested. I found 2 PixInsight tips that I've been using recently that I found very handy. And if there's not enough PixInsight users out there online here, then maybe it's not worth going through these two tricks that I found. But if you guys want to, I could go through it. Just
Sure, I'm interested.
Well, let's do this if you don't mind. Let's get Chris back in.
Yeah, no problem.
Then we can hit the tips later at near the end.
Well, I did have a couple of questions for Brian, though.
Okay,
Sure.
all right, quickly, yeah.
That wall, your pier is up against that wall. Doesn't that obstruct anything?
It doesn't really. It actually is a good location because yes, it does. I forget how many degrees. It's somewhere around 10 degrees above because the pier is very high up, right? So it doesn't obstruct. This is actually the north direction. So I have the entire south direction completely, obstruction free. But yeah, there is a little bit of obstruction in the north direction, probably about 10 degrees, 15 degrees or so.
But then you can just wait it out. You can
Then I could just
wait it out for another month.
Right. I try not to image below 30 degrees when the target's below 30 degrees because it's just not worth the time and the effort. So so it's not an issue.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or we could come back.
Okay.
Just by the way, I have an Instagram account that I put all my pictures on. So if anyone's interested, and if you have any questions for me, if anyone's interested in doing this for themselves, you can contact me an email and I can let you know what my experiences are.
Okay, thanks, Brian. That was great. Okay, Chris, you want to hop on? Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. The whole thing just went down.
we're speculating about a power outage or something like that.
Yeah, a surge or something. I'm on a surge protector, but I guess not. Okay, can you guys see that now?
Sure.
Okay, let me get it back up here. All right. Current slide. There we go. There we go. Okay, how was that?
Yeah.
Great, Brian. I really appreciate that information. That's cool. Okay, so back to that. That's my setup that I used. The over here, a lot of people, they were trying to ask me questions about how to set up the concrete. The tube, these are super expensive, and I had to find out that I had to order it special, and they would ship it in. So I just said, I'm not going to do that. So I went ahead and just dug a nice round hole, and I put in actually some, it's the gardening edging, and I brought it down really low, and I just put it in there. But what I did do is I gave myself a ton of room for adjustment, but because the end goal is to go ahead and put in an observatory. And because of that, I had to put in decking and everything else. So I'm allowing a lot of room for something like that. So this is the actual finished product, if you will. So that's all the concrete just built up. This is the actual footprint where the observatory is going to end up going. The goal basically is to go ahead and do, as Brian does, operate from my living room when it's cold and freezing. and out here, I'm in Lake Balboa also, next to Nasir and Paul. And, I've got a Davis weather station. We've been down to 26 degrees, and there's been nights when recently it's been down to 36. And, with the wind blowing that comes through here, it's not nice. So that's another motivator. But the coating that you can put on these, a lot of people I've seen on the web, they actually are gotten kind of cool. They'll do tile. The most of the ones that are out on the market now, they do the powder coat. And this one here is just a Japanese brown patina, and it's got about 3 coats of clear coat on top of it. The company that I get all this from is they're based down in San Diego County. And I asked him, I go, how long does this finish last? Because it's going to be out on its own. And he said, we have product in Laguna Beach on handrails that's been there for 5-7 years and it's not showing anywhere. So it's real tough and it works really well. But this is the actual setup here for that. Again, I'm doing some landscaping, but the idea is to go ahead and make this more of the centerpiece of the backyard and get that going. But that's the Orion astrograph. I've also got a Celestron 11-inch SCT, which I'm probably going to lean more towards just for visual, but this will be for the photography. And that's with the cover on it. The one thing, I don't know if you guys at home, they're using the Piers at home. If you're running a power cord, this is getting old real quick for me. But I just, it's a trip hazard. It's a problem. So I'm going to probably set up a solar panel over here in the corner of the yard and then run 120 volts out to the back and bring it in from the back side of this thing. So I have the best of both worlds. But Piers are it for me. Since I have put this in, I use this so much more. Whereas I just really started hating having it. This poor gentleman here, he's got a real nice pad, and I think he's using a hammer to go ahead and realign. So maybe he didn't put a real good guide on it or a template. So he's hammering these posts into place so his pier will fit onto it. But the biggest thing that caught my eyes, he's got a tree here.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. So when that's in season, unless there's nothing interesting over there, he's trying to block some light. But these really got me with the little steps. That's a great way to just break your ankle at night. The other thing, there's talk about concrete versus steel. There's a lot of people out there that are just pushing concrete like crazy. And I think that the issue that I have with it is, eventually I'm going to move and we're probably going to have to go down to Texas. But the deal for me is that I want to take this with me unless it is part of the sale of the house, which is be kind of a nice thing because we always want to get people interested in astronomy. So maybe leaving it there, of course, would be a real nice gesture and kind of get that ball rolling for whoever moves in if they're interested. But the base here you can see is square and it's grass. And that's kind of like, do I really want to go ahead and walk around a square base that's not level to the ground? And the answer is probably no.
I thought out.
The other thing is if you they're going to be left with a concrete thing. It's a great potted plant holder, if you want to put that there. So, anybody who's got these, round is the hot ticket. And then, of course, we're on a budget, or everybody's on a budget, and these things get really expensive. So, one of the reasons I really wanted to go ahead and do this on my own is because I just wanted it to be the best that could be out there. And, thinking ahead, this is the ideal goal. Brian, I love your little setup. That was quite awesome. It's not little at all. But to have an observatory at home with a pier and have the decking and, the lighting and just make it really nice is kind of the goal for me. I've been making these for a while. It's kind of interesting because a lot of people they really just say, well, they're expensive. It's like, well, now that I've had this pier out in the yard and I've used it, I spend so much more time out there observing, doing what I really, really like to do. And so I kind of wanted to talk about it because I think for the club especially, I've seen the ones at Lockwood. I've been out to Landers for Riverside out there. And they've got some incredible pads in that area. But again, they don't have pads or piers out on the pads. They have them in their observatory sheds. So it's just kind of one of these things where I think if you have these at home and you don't have to deal with the tripod, it literally takes me just minutes because everything's already dialed in. I just plop it down. I don't have to do elevation. It's already ready to go. And I just literally spend minutes putting it together and I'm done and ready to go ahead and observe. So that's my little thing. But yes, thank you guys so much for bearing with me. And remember it was 25 cents to get a thrill.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, before we start any questions, if you have not registered for the door prizes, do so now. I'm going to close it out in a couple of minutes.
Okay, where do we do that again?
Okay, so there's a link in the chat. I'll repost in the chat. there's a link in the chat. So you just basically need your name and an email address, and then we'll do the drawing. And
Okay,
so
I'm trying to get there.
while I'm waiting for you guys to do that, we can have some questions and open up for questions for and also Brian had some Pixel Insight stuff he wanted to share. So I'll let you guys decide.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
How heavy was that pier?
It's less than 125 pounds, I think it is. It's probably more around like 80. It's only that pier from head to toe is with the plates included is 36 inches. And that's a 10-inch pipe. If you go to the 8-inch pipe, which is trying to gravitate towards that, those will be like your 48 inchers, and they're around the same weight because there's less material.
Okay.
But they're really not super heavy. I mean, they're heavy, but I don't have to worry about anything moving or going anywhere.
No more cat problems.
No problems. I basically can run across the yard and hit it and hurt myself and go to the hospital before it'll move.
Hey, Chris, are you making this as a business for people around the United States, for other astronomers, or?
Yeah, anybody who wants it can have it. And the design, because one thing I noticed on the web, which frustrated me to no end, is that everything out there is very thin wall, and it's got, again, the tripod type of legs, and then the other ones that are out there are aluminum, and they are, again, thin wall. They tend to be the 8-inch or smaller, which is fine. But with the steel piers, I just think that you're getting, it's the same price point. I mean, your aluminum piers are $800, and what I'm putting out there has got a 1/2-inch plate, 1/2-inch top, 3/8 inch wall, 10-inch or 8-inch, and it's the same price point. So you're getting.
I'm surprised Brian didn't have you build his.
Well, interestingly enough, a couple of years ago down in Anza, I don't think he's a VP here at the club anymore, but he was a gentleman that came out and was talking to me, and he was suggesting that the Lockwood site needed to have more uniform piers. And now that I've been up there, I can see that you've got a tiny, 4-inch pipe rusted out. So maybe it was just the statics he was going for, but I think Lockwood could use a lot of rock solid piers that have really good coatings on them.
Chris, yeah, that's going to be the topic of our next Lockwood committee meeting in January. So if you would like to join us online for that committee meeting next, it's not scheduled yet, but early January, we're planning a Lockwood committee meeting, and piers are a primary discussion for this year because we want to build a pier for the club-owned Takahashi telescope.
Okay. Not a problem, John.
Actually,
happy to do it.
We've actually got, the committee has come up with a standard pier-based design that we've decided on. And so to get you up to speed on that conversation, what we're going to be doing is instead of providing a pier, we're going to be providing a pier base, which will be a pipe flange sticking a few inches out of the ground. That'll be into a solid concrete footing underneath it. And then the member provides his own pier from that point up. And so you may get several customers lined up that want to build a pier that starts with an 8-inch pipe flange on the bottom, and then whatever they need to mate up to their telescope on the top.
Yeah.
So if you would please join us for the Lockwood committee meeting, it would be appreciated.
I would love to, and that would be wonderful. Thank you very much, John.
All right, let's do this. So since we're running close to 10 o'clock, let's do this. We'll have the drawing, and then after the drawing, then we can. It looks like some people want the Pixel Insight tips, and we can just do that, and then that'll be that'll take us through to the end of the meeting, and I'll leave the Zoom session open for about half an hour or so after the meeting's over, so people can just hang around, or guys can do more talking about Pixel Insight if you want. So Alicia, you ready for the drawing?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so I've harvested the names and I'm going to drop them into the spreadsheet, and so I've got a formula here that pick the name out at random.
Okay.
Okay, so Stan Thompson is the first one.
Okay, so Stan Thompson just won a $25 Amazon gift card.
Wow.
Okay.
Let's see. Is he still here?
I am still here. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I will be sending you an email, Stan. Okay.
All right.
I don't see my
let's
name
do
in
the
there.
next one. Hang on.
All right, and the next
The next one is Jose.
Ooh, Jose won again.
They won last time.
Oh, uh-oh.
Out front.
It's rigged. It's rigged.
All right, Jose just won an item from the website store.
Okay.
And of his choice, any item.
Nice
All right.
mug, Greg. Looks great.
Okay. Next one is Mark.
Okay. Mark just won an LAAS hat.
Hey.
All right. And next one is Joe.
Pizza manga hat. Yay.
Gonna give me a hat? Sorry.
Joe with a hat.
No, Joe gets an Amazon gift card.
All right.
Right.
And go wrong with Amazon.
I have 50.
I have a list. Unless you want me to swap it, Joe. Do you want me to swap it?
No, I'm good.
I have to follow the rules. All right. The next wins a website item of their choice. I mean, LAS store item. There we go.
All right. Hang on. Let me just see. Where's Joe? Okay, here. Greg Meldon.
Okay. All right. So he won a item from the LAS website. That's cool. Okay, and the next person will win the next person will win an LAS hat.
Nasir.
All right. Thank you.
All right. That's it.
Oh, laser pointers.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting a laser pointer.
See, I'm not the only person here who's been waiting years for a laser pointer. And did I ever get close? No.
At my apartment, I have like this box of all of the door prizes that I had gathered for the year, but like COVID hit, so it's like I'd have to like send them in the mail, I guess. I don't know. Because I have lasers. I got a ton of lasers.
Oh.
You know, maybe we should just make it part of the deal. When you join the club, you just get it.
Laser.
Laser.
Since I just 89, I think I'm a little beyond that now.
All right. So that's it for the drawing. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we can go back to. So you guys decide. If there are a few more questions, like why don't we just have 2 or 3 more questions, and then we can have Brian to share his PixInsight tips.
Brian, do you sell your photographs? Is that what you do, or for a living, or? Like
No.
Instagram? Are you an Instagram too, like Raphael? And
I have an Instagram. I put my Instagram link in the chat. I just do it for fun. I just want to educate people, and I don't sell my pictures. That would be something to get into, I suppose, at some point, but haven't done that yet.
I'm pretty impressed with that remote area that you have in Mexico. That's pretty amazing. So very, very impressed.
Well, yeah, I'm just renting a pier, and of course they provided the pier that that I didn't have to make my own pier, so that was nice. And it's very cost effective. I mean, I could tell you, it cost me $400 a month to rent a pier. It probably cost me $150 a month to drive up to Lockwood twice a month, in gas. And so it's worth it to get, to be able to image every night that it's clear, essentially.
Wow.
So Brian, I mean, your images are awesome. There's so much detail, so much high resolution. So if you see it on a screen without zooming in for details, it's a shame. I mean, plan to print it out on a big prints or something, it should look awesome.
And once again, the scope best for you is the one you're going to use the most often. And if you need an observatory and that ups the game, there you go.
Well, I'm just blown away
Yeah.
at 37, 40 hours of imaging. That's just mind-boggling.
That's a lot of hours.
That's cool.
I was wondering,
That is a lot.
Robert,
Yeah, and that's actually just, I actually end up throwing away about 25% of the images just due to, you know, I really pick the top, you know, images that have the best signal to noise and the best. So I throw away probably 20. So I do a lot even more than that, but and end up throwing away 25% of them. But
Has Starlink invaded your photos yet?
I was just about to ask that.
I haven't noticed. I mean, I've noticed some satellites, of course, but not. I think recently I've been taking stuff like I actually almost finished the Horsehead and the M42. I started working on M40. The M42 had tons of satellites, like
Geosyncs.
a lot in a single image.
Geosync.
Yeah, but they're probably geosyncs instead
Yeah.
of Starlink. But yeah, I haven't noticed them yet, but I worry about that at some
Yeah.
point.
No, Starlinks leave long trails. I got nailed in my Ring Nebula photograph and I have to restart the stack. So it's like they're everywhere now.
So Brian, do you just turn your imaging run on and go to bed and wake up in the morning to see what it looks like, or?
No,
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly what I do.
Right?
I started up and just you know, I started up like right this time of year. I'm starting imaging at 6 o'clock our time, and then go, you know, then I go to bed and wake up at 5 o'clock or just wake up and collect and then download all my data from New Mexico. Yeah,
I was wondering,
wonderful.
did Robert get a here also?
I'm sorry.
Did Robert?
Oh, Robert he piggybacked his teleview on top of my scope. So we're actually sharing the costs, and we share the imaging time. So whenever he has time to image, I let him image, and we decide on the targets that we want to image, and then he just sort of starts the run and then shuts it down in the morning. So we just kind of share the load and collectively.
Now, if the roof has to close at any point during the night, will it safely stow your telescope, or is that even a concern?
So the roof is high enough that the roof can close without my scope being affected. That's crucial, right? So I'll just lose images, but the scope will, you know, if I have to refocus, I'll have a failure. It won't be able to refocus. So that's how I'd find out if the roof closed.
You have a dust cover on it, on the telescope, or how does that work?
I don't have a dust cover on the AG optical. There is the flat panel on the teleview, and I was most concerned about that before I moved out there. I talked to several of the people who have their scopes there, and none of them with the big scopes like a 17-inch plane wave or 20-inch plane wave or any. They don't have covers on their scope, and they don't seem to be affected by dust and you know, during the day and stuff like, you know, during when my scope is parked, I park it looking directly at my flat panel, and it's pretty close to the flat panel. So hopefully with the shroud and that, I'm not going to get that affected by any kind of dust that may exist. Yeah, that was a big concern.
Does cover come off automatically when you're not there? Or how does that work?
Well, on the QS on the teleview, you have to manually, or you have to electronically open and close the dust cover, when you're ready to image.
Oh, okay.
So when you're done imaging, the cover closes. When you first take an image, it opens up. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think it's probably time to adjourn the meeting because it's after 10 o'clock now. You guys can stay on and blab all you want. Like Spencer mentioned that he was going to be leaving it on for another 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever he wants to do. It's up to him. But officially, we can close the meeting right now. And Spencer, if you want to, you can go ahead and turn the recorder off also. Okay.
Well, I'll leave the recorder on if you guys want to do the pixel
Okay.
insight
Well,
stuff.
I'm
So we
gonna
can preserve that.
go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Then the meeting's officially adjourned for the night. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Guys, have a good one. Take
Bye.
care.
Take care.
You guys.
Hey, Phil, I'm going
Okay, if anybody
See you,
wants
Mark.
to.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody, Happy New Year.
Good night.
Happy New Year. Good night, everyone.
New Year.
Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yay. Holiday.
And Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.
Happy Christmas
they're dropping
star
me like
with Jupiter and
flies.
Saturn.
Oh my gosh, Mark, your background is awesome. Oh my God.
Background.
Okay, so
Mark's
as soon as this concludes, we got the Pix Insight crowd.
Right.
Yeah, I have two tips that I've learned over the last month. I'm certainly not an expert at Pix Insight, but I've learned a couple of things that I use a lot, and just thought I'd share those two things with you guys if you're interested.
Indeed.
Let me reshare my screen.
By the way, I love those H alpha regions in both 31 and 33. I mean, you balance the brightness very well, Brian. I think.
Yeah, thanks. In fact, that's
I love the colors too.
That's the one tip I wanted to relay here is how do you add the H alpha to these images? What's the best way to do it? Even to this image, adding the HIA, or here's M31, adding HA. What's the best way? I found that in PixInsight, the one script that they have, I've done it a couple of different ways. Using the script, what is it called? Narrowband RGB composition. I never really liked the way it comes out when I use that script. It always takes too much finessing, and I just can never get it to look like I want it to look. So I found doing searches.
Never worked for me.
Yeah, sometimes it never works.
Yeah, that narrowband RGB script never worked for me. Yeah.
Oh, it never has?
Nope.
Interesting. Okay.
It sometimes works, but it takes a lot of.
How do you combine narrowband with your LRGB?
That's what I'm going to show you here. So, okay, so here's what I do to add H alpha to my images. Oops, my mouse is too sensitive. So this process or this method was developed by this guy, Vincent Paris, and you could look it up. You could Google it if you want to find more write-up about exactly what all these equations mean. You have to use pixel math to combine all of this, right? And there's two key equations that I use to combine your H alpha with an RGB image. So what I do is there's this first equation here, which is which uses your H alpha image. Oh, sorry, my screen just went blank. What is it doing? Yeah, okay, so it uses your H alpha narrowband image and your red image. So you have to have both of those images in PixInsight. So if you use this equation in pixel math, and so here's an example, right? And you have to play around this. Some of this is trial and error. And the numbers here, the 100 is supposed to represent the red bandwidth, so 100%, I think, or how many nanometers essentially. And the H alpha bandwidth is 12 here. So it's basically this equation, right? And when you do that, and usually what I do is I adjust this 100, right? I try to, what you're essentially trying to do with this equation is, if you see this lower image here, so this is an H alpha image that I modified using this equation. And essentially what it's doing is it's removing the stars from this image to some extent. So you have very few stars in here. There's sort of like a black halo around where the stars were. So you want to eliminate as much of the stars as possible. So you usually have to adjust this 100 to try to get it about right. So it's a little bit of trial and error. Somewhere around 80 to 100 is what I use. So then you get this you get this modified H alpha image. And I'm doing this all in linear before I do the transfer to nonlinear. So I take this H alpha image that I just modified with this equation, and then I have the original red image here. And to combine that H alpha image with this linear red image, I use this equation over here, right? T is, of course, the image you're working on, or you're going to apply this equation to. So you take the H alpha and you subtract sort of the median of the H alpha image, and then you boost that a bit. And this is a trial and error as well. So this is, I think I use something like 4, 3, 4, or 5. It basically will boost the signal of the H alpha to your liking, right? And then once you apply this equation to the red image, and it will add the H alpha to the red without modifying the stars in the red image. So if you do that, you'll get a nice, H alpha will be added to your image, your red channel very nicely. And then, of course, then you create an RGB by just adding this new red modified H alpha image to create your RGB. And I did this with the flaming star. So if I go back to the flaming star image, this was what I did. I think I used 3 or 4 to add, 3 or 4 to the boost factor of 3 or 4 to this H alpha, to the H alpha image when I added it to this red channel to create this RGB. So it's a nice, I find this to be far more reliable than the narrowband RGB script. And you can also do this with like O3, if you want to do oxygen to your blue channel, you could do this as well. And if you look up Vincent Paris on Google it, you could find him doing it with, the various narrowband images applying to RGB data. The other thing I wanted to mention, or other tip I wanted to give you, is how do you add the RGB data, star color data to your narrowband images. So for example, I have this, the rosette image here. So this is all narrowband, except that I added the star colors here, if you could see those, using RGB data. So essentially what you're doing is I'm replacing the narrowband star data with the RGB data, okay? So how do you do that? What's the best way to do it? And I did a bunch of searches online to try to find the easiest way to do it. And of course, this is what I found. And again, you got to use pixel math to do it. It's a little more complicated. But it's not too bad, right? It's the first thing you have to do is you take your narrowband image that you created, like if you did a Hubble palette image, so you have a narrowband HSO image that is nonlinear. So you got to work. This is all working in nonlinear space now, not linear. So you take that narrowband image. That's a say Hubble palette image, and you extract the CIE lab components from that image. So you'll have an L, a luminance, and an A and a B. Okay. I guess I should have said this probably should have come first. Before you actually do the extraction, you should create a star mask from that narrowband image. So you basically want to have the star sizes corresponding to the size of the stars in the narrowband image. Of course, narrowband stars are much smaller than RGB stars, but so you really want to have the star size, the star mass to be the same size as the stars in the narrowband image. So you create that mask using the narrowband image. And then you have the lab, the L and the A and the B. What you do is you apply this equation, these two equations to the A, one to the A component of the narrowband image and one to the B component. And so essentially this equation uses it looks at the star mass you created for the narrowband image, and if the star mask is not black, basically it will add the color data from the RGB star image. So I should have pointed out that you create an RGB composite image with stars that will have the stars color in them. And then you use this equation for the A. You actually have to replace, you have to use in pix math, you have to replace the image, replace the A with this equation, replace the B with this second equation here. And what it will do, once you do that, you take that modified A and the modified B along with the narrowband luminance, and then you recombine those into a new RGB data. And so here's an example at the bottom here where I have the original narrowband image, which is an HSO image, and you could see the stars here are all sort of magenta looking, right? The colors aren't quite right. And so when I did this, adding this equation, you could see that when I applied the equation and recombined the lab image, you could see that the star colors are much better here, where you're adding the RGB star colors to that narrowband image. Anyway, it's a pretty simple, way to do it. Actually, works out pretty well.
Ryan, this blows me away for what you guys are doing on these to get these images. It's just like really knocks my socks off, guys. Honest to God, I'm really impressed. Totally impressed. Wow.
Wow.
Very
Yeah,
cool,
thanks.
Brian.
So if you want, I could actually maybe if a couple of people want to send me, I can email my images here so you could get the equations if you want, or you could take a screen grab if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
Could you go back a page?
Sure, Mike.
Thanks.
Yeah, this one you could just look it up and it'll have a lot of explanation. This one I'm not really sure. I can't remember where I got this. I had a bunch of different options. I was searching around to try to combine RGB data, and I found that this one provided the most reliable results. And I don't really remember who I can credit for this, but it's just through Google searching. So.
Brian, I have a question on this. When you add H alpha to red, so this is only for H alpha red, then you have a similar process for O3 and blue?
Yes,
And
you could do the exact same thing.
Okay, and then
sorry?
you get 3 different images and then you combine them together?
Right. So you're replacing, what you're doing is you're replacing your red, green, and blue channels. You're adding to the red, green, and blue channels your narrowband data using this process, right? And then you recombine the modified red, green, and blue to create your new RGB.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I did that. Yeah, the way the one I showed you on this back from my backyard, I got this M31 H alpha in red. I just use H alpha as a red. No, red as a red color and H alpha as a blue color or something. And then did the RGB combination on that. So I got, obviously the colors were different, but that's how I combined 2 different.
Yeah, the challenge with just taking the H alpha, the narrowband data, and using it as your red, green, only part of your red, green, and blue component is that the star sizes are all different, right? In the narrowband, the stars are much smaller than than in an RGB image. So that's what this thing does. It actually removes the effects, the star effects, when you combine them. So you don't get the, you're in this first panel here, you're using this equation to remove the stars, most of the effects of the stars, if not all of the effects of the stars. And then, so you don't get I remember starting out that way, and you would get some really skewed out, the stars would just look wrong. And this seems to be a better approach, actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what time is it?
Thank you so much.
After.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
No problem.
You do wonderful work.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Well, I try.
Brian, what do
you and it shows.
It's a.
What kind of work have you done?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do normally?
I actually work at JPL. I've been working there for 37 years. I'm working right now on the Europa Clipper mission. Been working on that for, gosh, I don't know, 8 years now.
Got to have you do a one of the talks for one of our meetings on what you do. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we could do that. I'll have to dig up some presentation material for that, but sure, I'd be willing to do something like that in the future.
Well, as a future board member, I'll mention it there. To the VP there.
What? Oh, yeah, right. Let him get through the CDR this week first,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, how do you know that? Yes, we had our CDR today. I was in a 8 hours of meetings already this morning, and we have 6 more days of it. So starting at 7 in the morning.
Ouch. Yeah.
Alicia, you also work on the Europa Clipper mission, right?
What?
Aren't you working at JPL?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Clipper.
You're on Europa Clipper?
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought you were working at the Rocketdyne place, Alicia.
Yeah, I switched over to JPL.
Tell anybody, for God's sake. Wow.
Sorry.
What do you work? Where do you work?
I work on system test bed.
You work with Mario, don't you?
Yeah. He's awesome.
Mario Moro, yeah, he's a good friend. We play golf together, yeah.
He's really good at Billboard.
Oh yeah, I'm on the science side, so I don't get to play with hardware much, so I don't get to interact with a lot of the hardware people that get to do those kinds of things. But
oh really? What are you on one of the instruments or like?
No, I'm the science manager on Europa Clipper, so I get to deal with
Oh, nice.
all the scientists and I need to, yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm interacting with all the instruments, not just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really impressive. So are you, is it a probe that's going out there, or what exactly is this involved that you're doing with the Europa? What is that?
Yeah, so Europa Clipper is a spacecraft that's our current launch date is 2024, and we're gonna orbit Jupiter and fly by Europa like 40, 50 times or so to collect data. We have a radar probing instrument on board that will probe down through the ice and hopefully down to the water level. It'll probe down 30 kilometers, hopefully, if Europa cooperates. And we've got 11 instruments on board, a lot of spectrometers in various wavelengths, wide angle camera, narrow angle camera, thermal instruments, fields and particles instruments, magnetometers.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the scientist's name? That was it that gave the demonstration on Jupiter from JPL. You guys, were you at the meeting there at the planetarium? I'm trying to remember who that was. That was really fascinating. Do you remember anybody?
Well,
He had pictures. He had pictures from the spacecraft of Jupiter, of the probe, showing us the.
What is that?
You remember who that was?
No, I don't remember. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember who it was. Oh.
Fascinating. This whole thing is fascinating.
Which Jupiter probe?
Name it, and I'll tell you what it was. Which ones were?
Juno?
Yeah, the Juno project. Yeah,
there's Juno. I worked on Galileo, which was one of the first orbiting missions.
Oh my
Jupiter,
gosh.
and
that's awesome.
Well, we're going to be on the moon apparently by 2024. That's the plan. That's what I'm hearing from NASA. So they're already.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
No, they're already. No, I was watching the NASA programming on it, and they said it's a definite go. They're already on schedule. But you don't think so, huh? Okay. We'll see.
I hope so, but I've been around too long. The mission, the administrations are, now that we're going to change administrations, who knows what's going to happen, right?
That's true. Yeah.
NASA needs to be funded like the DOE, right? They're funded on 10-year cycles instead of every year. NASA's funded every year, and things change. It's just hard to gear things up and build these kind of billion-dollar. Our mission is is going to be, by the time we launch, it'll be over $1 billion. So it's just hard to get stable funding, right?
Yeah, well, like the James Webb Telescope, I got to see that over at where it was being built, and I mean that's way over budget. I'm just wondering if it's still going to do what they plan on it doing, if it's ever going to get in space.
Yeah, hopefully.
Northrop, Grumman Northrop. Yeah, I was over there and saw that. I was like, wow, it's huge. But they still have guys working on it every day, and I'm trying to figure out after all these years why they haven't figured out how to fix the thing yet to get it ready. It's amazing, just amazing to me. I don't know. The technology is probably far superior now than what they had put on it, I'm guessing. Well, the technology is always changing for you guys, I imagine. So trying to keep up and upgrading all the time and keeping up with that stuff is fascinating. I think it's just, what can I tell you? I was in music, so that's why ask me questions about music. I could tell you, that was my degree in theater arts. So, but I love this stuff.
All right. Well, thanks guys for staying around for extra time here. I probably need to get going. I got to go to bed early so I can get up early for my all-day meeting tomorrow.
Well, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, all right. Thank you, guys.
Oh,
good
you're
night.
welcome.
I'm going to close out the session now.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
All right,
everyone.
good
All
night.
right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, good night from
All
Colorado.
right.
Bye bye.
We'll see you guys again.
Okay, take care.
24 degrees out of my front porch.